Hi guys, welcome to this Thursday night role-playing video. This is the latest in my series of races versus classes, exclusively from the PHP. I am not covering every subclass, every prestige class, and all the other bits and pieces that are out there. If for another reason, I'll almost certainly miss some. Tonight's one's going to be about half-elves. Half-elves are quite interesting in that they're a combination of two races and do combine the advantages of each. They're one of the more malleable races in that they can play more different things. Basically, the background is that you're half-elf, half-human, so you're a bit alien from both worlds. Half-elves are a lot more relatable to humans and a lot more likely to hang around with a human than elven groups. However, they are rarer than elves. They have no society, they have no race. They're the product of a liaison between a human and an elf in some way, shape or form. They still count as having Fey ancestry for the purposes of ancestry. They're also put down as diplomatic wanderers. As they have no homeland or home tribe of their own, unlike Dragonborn, who, despite being, again, a crossbreed creature, half one race and half another race, unlike Dragonborn, they can more easily fit in amongst the humans or the elves, though they don't quite belong. They don't need to form their own communities. Because of that, they tend to be a little bit of an outsider, but it makes them ideal diplomats because they're not bound by anything. They're not even bound by race because they're no one race. So half-elves are often found in various areas, dealing between different peoples and working with different peoples and allowing those peoples to get on. So they're quite useful. It states here that half-elves are uncommon enough that one might live for years without meeting another. So, being as it hasn't bothered to mention that in any of the other races, it's worth mentioning. Sorry, a little bit of interruption there. Whereas it doesn't mention that to any other races, it's worth assuming that half-elves are rarer than the other races. Particularly in that they're not a race themselves. Now, in terms of rules-wise, the ability rules we get for them is they get a charisma score of +2. Their charisma score increases by 2. So that means they're very charismatic, and we can instantly see where that would work quite well with several classes. And they get 2 other ability scores increased by 1, which you get to pick, which makes them ideal for fighter magic user, for those classes that really spread themselves out a lot, like paladins, like rangers. Sorry. Whereby they're going to want to use quite a few different stats to make themselves work. You can, I'll go through it in more detail in a minute, but you can already see that they're quite a versatile player race. Age, they live to about 180 years, but they reach adulthood at 20 years. So they can be quite old. Certainly, if you're looking to play something like a Dunedain, and I wonder what Dunedain is, Aragorn from Lord of the Rings was a ranger. He was human, but he had ancient blood in him, which meant he was about 80 years old in Lord of the Rings, I think. And his people lived for a very long time, which made him mysterious, which made him cool, which made he'd been everywhere. It was a very good excuse for him to have experience in pretty much everything. And with the elves, with the gnomes, and particularly with the half-elves, it gives you that, but without, it gives you the ability to jam a lot into your background. The advantage that half-elves have background-wise is you don't need to be some sort of weird alien creature like the elves. Elves despite the fact they appear human, are in fact very, very sort of mysterious. They don't think the same as humans do, neither do gnomes and the other long-lived races. Half-elves, because they're half-human, because they live amongst human society and human worlds, you can have somebody think as much as a human does, yet jam a hell of a lot of background into there to make a very interesting and very complex character who has been there and done that and bought the t-shirt, as they say. So that's quite cool as well. Alignments, they don't really bear any alignments. Your base walking speed is 30 feet. Now, here's some of the other cool stuff. Dark vision. You have dark vision, which is quite cool. You can sometimes, I will make a brief aside, as I often do. It's worth noting, a lot of species have dark vision to the point where you can end up in a group where only one species needs a torch and nobody else bothers to light them. You end up with a human wandering around in the dark, while three or four his other mates are like, we can see fine, I don't see why you need that torch, just makes your target. Leading to the joke, humans, they're just like disabled elves. Which is an offensive joke, and if you're not offended by that, you should be. But it's not going to stop me making a joke. They have Fey ancestry, which makes them, it gives them saving throws against being charmed, and you can't be put to sleep. If you're playing a half-elf, particularly if you decided to go down the diplomatic path, which it is one of the paths that it kind of recommends diplomats and wanderers, being able to throw around charm and illusion spells and having some immunity to them means if you do roll a 1 and crit fumble your spells and they bounce back on you, you've got some protection, which is nice. You've got skill versatility. You gain proficiency in 2 skills of your choice, any 2 skills, and that's nice as well. It means you will have advantages where you need them. Language, common, elf, and 1 extra language of your choice, which is quite cool. Now let's see how these guys stat up against the various classes. Right, first off, obviously, we've got the barbarians. Now, their charisma buff doesn't help them. Their immunities against being charmed, often the idea of a dumb barbarian being manipulated and charmed is put in there. Being immune to it is helpful. But not massively so. Being able to throw a buff into strength, giving with your 2 ability increases into strength and endurance means you will have advantages if you want them as a barbarian. You'll say the charisma doesn't do much, but they will be cool. The fact that half-elves are wanderers and are often loners fits the barbarian profile perfectly. They work very well as kind of that lone warrior, that unknown kind of Clint Eastwood spaghetti western style bowman, or that gruff axeman Wolverine style thing where they've got heightened senses and see and hear more than you can. They can work really well with a lot of races, with a lot of classes. So rules wise, great. Background wise, even better. Bards, again, the been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, wanderer ideology and diplomat ideology both fit in with bards. Bards love charisma, so the 2+ charisma buff's going to help. And again, putting those other 2 buffs in anywhere you want, such as wisdom or intelligence, depending, is going to make you a fantastic bard. They're living to 180 years. As I say, is going to allow you to put a hell of a lot of experience in there. And I don't mean XP experience, I mean actual, your character's been to places, met people, he knows everybody because he's been around long enough to make friends with everybody. That's very advantageous. Elves are always considered classically to be very beautiful and very talented, so that works well with a musician. And the extra skills, instantly, bards give you direct skill abilities, but you can take extra skills in other things that relate. You get performance, you can take skills in artistry, skills in other things. And it's also always worth remembering when stacking up. There's not much wrong with approaching your DM and saying, look, there isn't a skill for this particular thing, but I want to specialise in it. I mean, if you want a skill, it's specifically in stand-up comedy rather than just performance, that's great, and it can lend to the flavour. But you can take performance, you can take acrobatics as well. So as a bard, you can spread yourself over all the aspects of bardic entertainment, or you can take the entertainment bard and take arcane, and take sort of history and take the arcane knowledge ideas. You can really put yourself about there. Obviously, where are we? Spellcasting. No, that's moving on to wizards. Wizards? Sorry, really twitchy tonight. Apologies. Moving on to clerics. Again, they make ideal clerics. Background-wise, again, the wanderer and diplomat abilities both fit into cleric ideologies. The idea of a wandering monk or a wandering cleric is a well-established one. The idea of a cleric as a diplomat, as someone who's trying to make peace or broker deals between two different factions in a game, is actually, again, a well-documented standard one. So background-wise, they fit into clerics beautifully. Everyone has a religion. Where they don't have a people, it does leave you free to put them into some of the weirder, more out there religions that might not necessarily be recognised in your setting's immediate locale, and yet still have it make sense. Sorry, I'm literally just making myself coffee while I'm doing this. But coffee, surely caffeine makes you twitch more. You're damn right, I'm not giving up. Obviously, the charisma will help with the proletariat, with your speaking, with your going around and preaching to people, and the ability to bang that one extra, in two things. You can throw it in the wisdom, you can throw it in the strength or the endurance, but it will give you a buff in spellcasting if you throw it in the wisdom, which is very useful. And if you're playing a fighty cleric, or if you're playing a walking tank, cleric or damage sponge, again, you can throw that in there. Clerics have a few abilities, but having extra abilities, giving them more history knowledge, more knowledge outside their field can be quite useful. It means you don't have to sit there and choose between abilities depending on what you want. You can give yourself a wide spread and cover more aspects of the cleric and work that in together. So that's all there. Again, as previously said, if you're a magic user, if you're the kind of cleric who is a diplomat, if you're trying to use charm spells, sleep spells, having that immunity will give you some recourse if they go wrong. Druids, again, the half-elf / elven wanderer archetype is basically built for druids. Half-elves work amazingly well for druids. Obviously, your charisma doesn't give you much of a bonus, but when trying to convince animals to do things, that can come handy. And you can throw some points into the wisdom again as well. The dark vision, a lot of animals come out in dusk to dawn. A lot of animals come out at night. It allows you to interact more effectively with those animals. And the extra skills, again, allow you to spread your traits out. So you can be one type of druid, but also, you can be more of, you can be one circle, but you can take things which allow you to sort of branch out. Let's say one circle. Where are we? Yeah, the druidic circles. I'm thinking something else there. You can spread yourself out amongst a lot of skill sets, which means you can play a little like a ranger if you want, and that's not bad. Fighters, again, fighters work with everything. Half-elf fighter, perfectly valid. You've got you throw one of your ability scores of strength, throw the other in fortitude, and you're just a very charismatic fighter. Ability-wise, it gives you the ability to use multiple different types of combat. You pretty much do that anyway, but it allows you to take proficiencies in more exotic or weirder weapons if you want to. it gives you the ability to be a fighter with some healing background. Obviously not healing magic, but with some healing background. Being immune to being immune to charm or sweep is always good if you're a fighter. Same as it was with the barbarian. It allows you to avoid somebody basically bypassing your physical strength and going for your perhaps mental weakness, which is cool. Not much else you can really say about fighters because they are a very straightforward class. Monk, again, nice and easy one with that. The idea of a lone wandering monk is a classic archetype. The idea of a lone wandering half-elf is a classic archetype. You've got your key power. Again, your charisma doesn't do much for you. It's nice to be a charismatic monk, but people tend to play them as more mysterious. But again, you can throw those 2 extra ability points wherever you want, and you can spread the skill points around as well to give you pretty much whatever type of monk you want. The resistances don't do too much. Paladin, well, here's one of the ones of which half-elves really do work quite well. Paladins rely on their charisma, they rely on their strength, and they rely on their ability and their fortitude. And as such, as a half-elf, you've got all of that, and in spades, you've got... See, I don't know if that's a racist comment or not. That confuses me. In spades. It's suddenly making me think, because I'm on the internet, is that something race related? Apologies if it is. It's a saying that I was brought up with. Maybe I was brought up by terrible people. Probably, I'm a terrible person myself. But you've got all of that in abundance. Anyway. If you're a cleric, you might be up against demons, you might be up against things that will try and charm you or will try and use those kind of spells against you. That's great. The ability to fight in the dark is brilliant. But more importantly, you've got +2 charisma, which boosts your spellcasting ability. And you're a fighter, so you will want an increase in strength. You will want an increase in fortitude, meaning that you're going to be quite a competent paladin. You're going to be able to spread those ability points around. Add to that you're doing quite a few things, and you're doing quite a few things as a druid, having those extra ability points to put wherever you need, not ability points, skill points to put wherever you need them is going to be nifty as well. And the idea, again, half-elves work with pretty much anything. The idea of a wandering loner just seeking a cause, that's great. The idea of him being on a holy quest, that's fantastic as well. Well, I've just poked myself in the face with a spoon. Yay! Next, we have the common, but where the hell? That's Oath of Vengeance, that's that. Open page. We have the Ranger. This is another one where you want a lot of abilities. You will have spells as a Ranger. Not that many, but your spellcasting ability is Wisdom. So being able to buff that Wisdom by 1 is going to be useful. Being able to buff that Strength or that Dexterity by 1 to increase your bow or your weapon wielding abilities is always useful. The extra key, the ability to see in the dark, again, druids do deal with a lot of animals. They do hunt. They hunt at night and dusk and dawn. That's going to work well with it. The natural explorer ability, working well with the wanderer. It makes sense. People that wander from A to B all the time are going to be able to tell you where things are going to know where the good food is and the bad water is and things like that. So background-wise, that works very well with half-elves. Your charisma doesn't do that much. Most people that play Rangers tend to go for the stoic and quiet type. And then end up talking your ear off. But yeah, it's never bad to have charisma. And again, druids are another skill bunny where they have a lot of varying skills, and their ability to adapt to any situation and be self-sufficient means those skill points are going to be quite good as well. Rangers. Did I say druids? I meant to say rangers. Yeah, rangers, again, as I say, the fact they spread themselves out over a lot of skills is awesome. Rogue. Um, there's no rules ability that benefits from having charisma, but there are quite a lot of rogue types. Confidence tricksters, the fast talker trying to get yourself out of trouble, they all work with that charisma buff, and we'll find it very useful. Being able to buff your dexterity is going to be useful, and being able to throw the other buff in intelligence or anything else you need is also going to be useful. Being able to see in the dark, having a thief that can see in the dark, again, fantastic. If you're going to play the kind of rogue that doesn't kill people, a lot of people do play non-lethal rogues. Again, being immune to sleep spells and that means you can start throwing around sleep wands and stuff like that and not worry about it affecting yourself. Means you can avoid being charmed out of revealing your secrets. So again, that works quite well. The fact that the sort of the diplomat and the wanderer ability, people always assume a wanderer means out in the wilderness, but there are people who live in cities who never really fit in. They wander from one group to another, and again, that fits in quite well with the roguish archetype. The sorcerer, let's have a look. Your spellcasting ability is charisma. Yep. Straight away you can see the spellcasting ability here of charisma that you get with the sorcerer. That's going to benefit very nicely from a +2 buff. Sorry, give me a second, guys. Yep, there you go. +2 spellcast, but it's going to benefit quite nicely. It allows you to make the sorcerer more survival with the other things, throwing them into strength or fortitude. The +2 skills. Sorcerers have a few more skills than you perhaps see in a wizard and that, but they're really primarily magic users. So having a few extra skills does help counteract that. But it helps you stop being a glass cannon. It helps you stop being nothing but artillery support, which you will find with some sorcerers and other magic users. They sit at the back and they yell fireball a lot. That's pretty much what sorcerers were meant for. They have more weapons at the back of the thing and they can do more damage, but they don't have as wide a spread of stuff. Wizards make up for not being very tough and not having very many abilities by having spells that do everything. A sorcerer doesn't have that variety of spells. They tend to be much narrower in focus, and as such, you will often find that it can be a little dull to play a sorcerer. They're great in groups. If you're playing something with a lot of social interaction and a lot of cool stuff like that, that's fantastic because it gives everybody something to do. But if you're playing a more traditional dungeon crawl, it can be a bit dull as a sorcerer because you're literally fireball, 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 fireball. It works brilliantly in a group, it works brilliantly statistic-wise, but having those features can make a sorcerer a bit more interesting to play because he gets to do more. He gets to do a bit more in a few more situations. In terms of origin, the idea of your magic coming from a Fey background or being wild magic makes perfect sense. Again, if you're a wandering creature, then great. It doesn't specifically say half-elf, half-human in the name. It does say in other places, but there's no reason why you can't have draconic ancestry in there as well. It says half-elf and half-human in the description, but dragons will sleep with anything. So you do have the freedom if you want to make it more of a dragonborn half-elf. None of the abilities really would need to, could be changed, but changing that in the background, that's fine. That gives you straight away draconic start, the idea of a draconic bloodline, or just having draconic blood somewhere back in there. There's a lot of confusion, open and looseness about how dragon crossbreeding with humans works. Sorry, I'm being molested by kins. Come here, you. Come here. Camel. Nope, he's not playing. Well, he is playing, but he's not coming to see you. Anyway, if a dragon is a human, then that's what gets passed on, along with some mysterious dragon-like abilities, or what. But there is no reason why it can't be half elf, half dragon. but with human appearances, half elf, half dragon, but with a bit more dragon-like appearances, whatever you really want. And the same goes with a lot of things. When you've got a lot of stuff, you can adapt it to make it work for you. But there's no reason not to have a draconic bloodline either in the elven side or the human side, or replace one of the sides entirely. Well, although I suppose if you replace the elf side, it would just be a dragonborn. But again, it doesn't say specifically what they are either. But yeah, there's a lot of openness there for sorcerers. Warlocks, if you are a wanderer, if you're dealing with everybody and not really bound to any particular thing, the idea of you ending up dealing with fate or infernal creatures or elder gods or their servants is fairly open. It's fairly easy to imagine that you wander across a temple, you made an offer you can't refuse, and you don't. So that works. That works well with warlocks. Again, spellcasting ability is charisma. You're going to get an instant buff by your +2, and you can throw the other 2 abilities in anywhere you want. The skill things, again, they help to round off the character. Nothing particularly brilliant as a warlock, but they're still cool. Warlock spells, again, having immunity to some spells is cool. Warlocks do a lot of weird stuff. If you're an archfey, you've got sleep as your first spell. Dominate person as a 5th level spell. So straight away, being immune to those in case they go wrong gives you a nice little advantage. It's worth bearing in mind, again, with the Fey thing, half-elves do have Fey ancestry, and the fact that they're not beholden, the fact they wander around and can change sides, is in and of itself a kind of Fey thing. So it does leave it open for them to work with a Fey creature without it being too much of a random thing. Wizards. Wizards are cool. There's nothing particularly to lend yourself ability-wise. You can throw that 1 point straight away into wisdom, into intelligence, which will give you an advantage. The charisma is not going to help particularly. Again, if you're throwing around sleep spells or charm spells, you've got a little bit of protection from that. Wizards tend to be a bit short on the skills, so you can round off that character quite nicely with those few extra skills. Yeah. Wizards are so broad, there's nothing that's particularly going to make you an amazing wizard, but again, there's nothing particularly going to make you a bad wizard. The skill buffs will obviously work, as we've said. The ability buffs will obviously work, as we said, and the skill buffs will give you a little bit more to do if you want to use some skills when you're running short of magic, which is always a threat with a wizard. If you don't get regular rest, you end up being, a flamethrower with no fuel. So having a few extra skills can make the character more interesting. They live for 180 years, do half-elves, really. They live for 180 years, half-elves, so again, the idea of having enough time to really study magic, that works beautifully. The wanderer thing, the fact that wizards often wander and stay on the outskirts of society, the idea of him being, him or her, your half-elf being someone who's wandered, found ancient secrets out there, or ancient spells out there, or an ancient wizard off in the distance and knows where he is and can convince him to teach him magic. That's quite cool. In terms of sort of the diplomatic thing, the idea of diplomats also being wizards is quite a common one. Wizards are intelligent, wizards are well studied. They know the ways of multiple different peoples because they read about them. So having a diplomat wizard really, again, that works quite well with an elf, with a half-elf rather. So yeah, half-elves, they work pretty well with everything. Yeah, there's no sort of disadvantage in any particular one because of their ability to throw and move around those 2 skill points and ability points. So yeah, they're quite nice actually. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed that. Thanks very much for your time. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. Not sure why, but I am. So if you like it, see me there, and please tell your friends. Thanks very much. Bye.